All right, welcome,
Okay.
welcome. My name is Pastor B. Wallace.
And I'm Keontae McDonald, and you're tuned in to Simplify Complexity, a relationship podcast.
That's right. So we want to welcome you to another day, another podcast. We are always grateful that you can join us no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing. And we don't want to take that for lightly. You could be anywhere, you could be doing anything, but you chose to join us here. We want to encourage you, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Please share this with
Hmm.
somebody. Somebody needs to hear what we're going to talk about today because this is going to be a very fun and interesting topic as we're going to deal with the
Definitely.
whole concept of confidence or overcoming intimidation. So we want to talk about tips to building confidence when talking to others, when talking to the opposite sex, and especially as maybe you're out there and you're seeking to kind of get to know somebody. Maybe there's somebody you like, and you just find like you just can't build up the nerve to let them know that you like them. You can't build up the nerve to
It
begin to
happens.
to build that conversation, to ask them out on a date. And how do we work through that? How do we work through the intimidation, and how do we build up that confidence? And so, Keontae, man, what came to your mind when you first, heard this topic of building confidence and overcoming intimidation?
The first thing that came to my mind is that this is a problem that I think all of us have dealt with at least some point in our lives. Whether it's early on in your lives, like grade school, high school, or even some people further on in their lives when they get older and get on the dating scene after college, in college. It's something that we've all experienced. So it's a very relatable topic because, I know I've been through it at one point in time. Yeah, I mean, me just getting married out of nowhere, it just didn't happen. Yeah, I mean, it started with some like, man, okay, how do I talk to this girl? How do I get her number? And then start talking to her. So, we've all had to go through this. And that's why I think it's such an interesting topic.
Well, and I love what you said because it really is. We all kind of go through this. I think sometimes we can have a thought or an impression in our mind that, well, because somebody's of a certain stature or because somebody's a certain way or they look a certain way or they're popular, that they don't really deal with this insecurity. And I think we
Yeah.
all kind of deal with that insecurity. And I think that's partly what we put in our head is we kind of lift people up in certain places and because of this or because of that we feel like, okay, well, who am I to approach them and look at them and look at me and so just understand that a lot of people of all ranges kind of deal with this lack of confidence and trying to build confidence when talking to the opposite sex. So I know
Definitely.
let's talk about some why. So why do you think that is? So this is what we're going to do. As you're tuning in, we're going to deal with whys, and then we're going to kind of build up to some tips and things that you can do after that why. But it's important because if we just give a tip and you have the tip, you don't really understand, well, why am I doing that? Why do I need this tip? We want to make sure we give you the full gamut so you can fully overcome and build that confidence. So why do you think some people do that? Why do we struggle?
Well, I think one of the main reasons that we go through that is one of the biggest words for that is fear. And
Yes.
the word that follows that is the fear of rejection. A lot of us, the fear of rejection is a very natural feeling for most of us. Like I said, we all go through this when it comes to confidence. We just want to be loved. We want to be liked by somebody. We just want to be wanted.
Yeah, we want to be
But that fear,
accepted. Right.
right, exactly. But that fear of rejection, it always comes into play with like, oh, what if they don't like me? What if I just mess up and say something stupid or say something dumb? Then I just mess up my whole chances. And we get in our own way all of the time before we even make a first step. So I think that's number one.
And it's such a great point because I do think we allow fear to cripple us. And as we
Hmm.
talk about why, and just think about in life in general, and as you're tuning in, this isn't just confidence when it comes to maybe talking with somebody, but this could just be confidence with getting the promotion. This could just be confidence just in
Yeah.
life and how you perceive yourself. And too often we allow fear to cripple us, and no longer are we living our lives, but we're allowing fear to live for us. And I really want to say that
Hmm.
again. You're not living anymore. You're actually allowing fear to live for you. And it's so right. So we got to make sure that we overcome that fear. We got to make sure we overcome that fear of rejection, the fear of the unknown, the what ifs. And the
Yeah.
way that you do that, and one of the things that I wrote down is how you overcome that fear is you need to understand whom shall I fear but God. And here's the thing: you begin to build your confidence not in what this world thinks about you, but you build your confidence in what God thinks about you and what you believe about yourself. So
Right.
that's actually something that I put down. And I want to mention this now because I feel like they go hand in hand. As we're talking about, if God is for me, if God believes in me, if God is with me, then who could be against me? But I think part of our challenge is we actually don't like ourselves. We actually have a low
That's
view. So
good. That's
now
a good
we're
point.
dealing with why. I struggle with my confidence to talk to somebody else because I actually have a low view of myself. I have a low regard of how I see myself. And as a result of me having a low regard of how I see myself, then therefore I don't think anybody would like me. I don't imagine anybody
Yeah.
wanting to date me. I don't see anybody wanting to say yes. And so therefore now I shrink down and I kind of allow this fear to come in. But that fear sometimes comes as a result of just having a low view of yourself. And so what you have to
That's
begin to
good. That's
do,
good.
so how you have to build on that is you have to understand your self-worth. You got to really understand that I am of value. I do have value. And though we're not perfect, we got to stop beating ourselves up because you don't look like so-and-so, because you're watching, Instagram, you have all these social media accounts and you see how
That's
they
key.
look and look how their body looks. And I don't like how my body looks. And a guy isn't going to like me because, I don't have this type of body, or I don't have these type of muscles, or I don't have this type of face feature. And we have to begin to like who God has made us.
Exactly.
And the,
And
the
that
script,
that's oh go ahead. Go no, go to your scripture. Go to your scripture.
Okay, so the scripture that I have it is, when it talks about Psalms, is we are marvelously and wonderfully made. So that's how God begins to describe you. When God thinks about you, God says you are marvelously and wonderfully made. So do you believe that about yourself, or do you
Right.
not like who you are?
Right. That's beautiful. That's why I want you to go ahead and get that scripture in. It brings me to a point of, us feeling like that. A lot of people will just look at it like you said, we kind of have a low self value of ourselves. I remember watching an interview with Will Smith. Now, mind you, this is Will Smith. You know what I mean? And they were asking him about his box office numbers, and he was like, sometimes, for a moment of time, I was just feeling down on myself. I would watch, The Rock get all these movies and make these $1 billion movies. And I was like, I should be there. If you take a person like Will Smith and he's feeling like that, then of course we're going to feel like that. But the key thing in this interview that Will Smith said after that was that he said, I had to come to a point, when I turned 50, like I had to really get another value on my life. Like I'm a valuable person. If I continue to look at what the next person does or what the next person has or, who I'm supposed to be and I'm not, then I'm never going to see myself of value.
Right.
And just like you said, we have to see ourselves of value because we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We're marvelous. God has created us, so we have some value.
Well, and I want to build on this because there might be things about ourselves that we can change. There are things that we can adjust. And that's where, yeah, go ahead and allow yourself to grow. And so we do want to have an honest reflection of ourselves because, hey, if I'm a slob, and that means, I got ketchup stains all over my shirt and then, but that's just putting on a new shirt. So it's different than necessarily saying, okay, well, I don't like my nose. Stop getting caught up in your nose and understand that you are more than your nose. Don't get caught up in, the shape of your body. Understand that you're more than the shape of your body. And so there's things that are outside of our control that we give to God and we trust God and we begin to like ourselves. And then we understand that there's things that we can improve on. I can improve on my attitude. I can improve on my character. And I think sometimes we can get caught up to where we're not understanding that there's things that we can improve on. And so those things that you can improve on, those things that you can grow on that aren't shallow, then that's okay. But when it comes to your nose or your breasts or, your body shape or different things like that, you want to be really careful in that area. And so understand that your worth, understand your value. You do have value. You do have something to offer. So don't stop getting in your mind. That's what you know what I mean. Stop saying I'm nobody's gonna like me and nobody's gonna do this and no. Yeah, you're literally tearing yourself down. So stop that. All right, what you got, man?
I was about to say that was going to be my next point. Stop overthinking it. Man, we can overthink ourselves to death. I was just looking at a meme on Facebook, and if you ever like try to do something on the web and it says like, click this if you're not a robot, click all the pictures that have, a stoplight in the picture, and it'll be a little fraction of a stoplight, and it's like, do I click that picture? You know what I mean? Like, we're totally overthinking it. And we do that. We can do that in relationships when it comes to dating, when it comes to approaching somebody. We're just overthinking it. And the way that you can just get over that is just learn to be comfortable in your own skin. You don't have to overthink everything. You don't have to be a rocket scientist for you to get to point A to point B. Just be yourself and go out there and do what you got to do. Another thing I want to say, too, is a saying that I always tell myself is that we have to adopt the 3 C's life. If you want to really be comfortable living your own sin, in the 3 C's life is you have to make a choice to take a chance to change things. Yeah. Point blank, period. It all starts with just making that choice. Don't overthink it. Just go ahead and make a choice and take that chance. Because once you take that chance, that becomes the opportunity that things may change or things may not change. And you have to think to yourself too, I'm gonna go out on this limb and take a chance. Things may work out, things may not work out. And in the event that they don't work out, you're still fine. You're still who you are. You still have value. You live another day to move on and try to take another chance.
And that's the thing. Just because somebody is not necessarily accepting my invitation, or they're not inclined to want to talk, to me, or they don't really want to pursue anything with me, it doesn't mean that you don't have value. We're allowing whether or not if somebody wants to date us or not date us to give us value. If you step into that situation already understanding your value, already understanding your worth, then when somebody does possibly say, I'm not interested, you don't take it way personal, but you just understand that, hey, people have different preferences. Some people like McDonald's, some people like Burger King, all right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily saying one's better than the other. It's just saying, hey, they're different. We're different. Yeah. We're different people, and just understand that there's going to be differences, and that nobody gives you your value and your self-worth. You get that from God.
Exactly.
Now, I want to say something on what you said as far as the first C was a choice, right? Make a choice.
Yeah, make a choice.
All right. Now, as we talked about, don't overthink. That doesn't mean that you don't think. It doesn't mean that you don't use wisdom. You know what I mean?
That's good.
And so, yes, we want to have confidence, yes, but with that, we still want to be wise. So I don't want to overthink, but at the same time, I still want to be wise with the things that I say, the things that I do. And I think sometimes we're not showing wisdom, right, in a situation. And so, therefore, we kind of put ourselves in a bad situation. We set ourselves up for failure because as we kind of did not discern, we didn't discern the situation well enough. Mm-hmm. Like, she probably gave you every hint in the book that she really wasn't interested, but you really weren't observing. You really weren't listening. You really, you really weren't paying attention to those things. Or likewise, he really was showing that he's a dog. And so all of a sudden, when he dogs you out, then because you really didn't want to see those.
Right. The greatest analogy is, football just started up again. Man, learn how to read the defense. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, be a quarterback that knows how to read the defense. So when the blitz comes, you're not looking like, oh, what happened? The same thing in the dating world, the same thing in life. We know where red flags are. If I see a hill is on fire, I'm not going to continue to go towards the hill and then once my car is trapped and say, oh, how did I get in this situation? Oftentimes, though, when we don't use wisdom, that's what ends up happening. We input a certain destination in our GPS, a bad destination, and when we get to a sinkhole, we're like, how did my car fall in this hole? Well, how didn't your car? Did you use wisdom before you even put those, that navigation, those coordinates in? So I fully agree with you, man. We have to take wisdom into account before we make that choice, before we make that move, because it'll get us into it.
With that, wisdom doesn't necessarily mean that I now have a low value of myself and I have a higher value of somebody else's self. Because again, we'll talk ourselves. Well, she would never want to go out with somebody like me.
Yeah.
Well, what you just told yourself that he would never say yes to me. Well, I mean, have you ever talked to them? Did you ever say hello to them? Did you even see if they would talk to you? You've already predetermined, and so again, the mind games that we can play in ourselves. So we got to be careful. So even though we're saying be wise, even though we're saying you don't want to overthink, but at the same time, you do want to have some wisdom, so just that's just an example, I think, of how we can kind of think too much and begin to kind of formulate things into our minds because we don't value ourselves.
I think everything that we've talked about before, it kind of goes into this as well. Not overthinking it, you know what I mean? Not having that self value, that low self value of yourself. All this stuff brings us to this forefront of just going through what you have to, what you have to do or where you're trying to go. Because
Yeah.
if you never get there, you're never going to see what's promised or what could have been because you've already X'd yourself out of the equation.
And I think that's
So
that's really the biggest thing to me is that you don't want to live your life in regret.
right,
You don't
exactly.
want to live your life if could have and when should, if I just would have given for the promotion, or if I just would have said hello, if I just would have possibly asked her for her number or asked him for their number, or maybe asked if they wanted to go out. And so you don't want to live your life that way. So my thing is my tip is trust God. Begin to, so
Exactly.
not only do you understand your self-worth, but you just begin to trust God and just say, you know what, I can't be in control of everything. I don't know what the situation is going to be like, but you know what, along the journey, in life's journey, I'm just going to trust God every step of the way. And
Hmm.
that what that does is that really allows you to lean on him rather than you leaning on yourself. And it's nice
Exactly.
when you can lean on somebody else. And so as you're
Exactly.
going through the dating process, lean on God. Trust in him. Don't live your life in regret and what ifs and if this doesn't and if that. You know what? Just trust in God, and if it works out, man, it works out. If it didn't,
Hmm.
man, if she says no, if she says she's not interested, if he says he's not interested, you lost nothing.
Exactly. You
And
gain
you didn't lose your
experience.
self-worth because you understand your value. What were you going to say?
I'm about to say you gain experience in that. You always got to look for the positive.
Yes,
You
you
gain.
totally get experience.
you know, which brings me to my last point. In that equation with gaining experience, you might be listening to this and you might say, "Man, I've never asked anybody on a date, so I don't even know. I see stuff in movies like this, but this will be my first time asking somebody on a date." You just have to know that you're probably going to be nervous. Nervousness is totally fine. We're all going to get nervous, but it just depends on you going through with it. I remember another interview I watched. This is with Eminem. Eminem has sold millions of records around the world, like 80 million or whatever. But it was something that caught my eye when he was talking about performing live. And he was like, I've done over 300 live shows, but he said every show, I always get this little ball in my stomach of just feeling nervousness before I go out and do what I got to do. So this is somebody who has done something repetitive over a lifetime, and they still get nervous. So whether this is your 300th time or your first time, you're going to get nervous, but you have to continue to get over that and just go for it.
Right. I
So
like that. I like
that's
that.
my last bit of encouragement.
All right. Well, I want to finish with this. I want to give a little bit of an assignment this week and how we can
Okay.
kind of apply all of these things. And so, again, we've talked about, don't allow fear to immobilize you. We've talked about how you're understanding your value and your self-worth. We talked about, control and trusting God. We've talked about,
Hmm.
just don't overthink things. So here's some ways you can do it. The first one is this: learn to listen and observe. I think a lot of times, so this is what you're gonna do this
That's
upcoming
good.
week. A lot of times we struggle to build and talk to somebody because we don't even know how to have conversations. All right. And,
Hmm.
and so part of the reason we struggle to have conversations is because we just don't listen and observe. Man, there's so much you
Yeah.
can see and observe. If you just listen to people and observe, now that gives you something to talk about. All right. Now, so you're going to learn to be a better listener and you're going to be a better observer. Then what you're going to do is what I want to encourage you is I want you to start small with casual conversations. See, some of us, we don't even know how to talk to people, period.
Right. That's what I want to say. Oh man. We say if
So,
somebody
so,
says hello, we says I have a red car. Like what? That doesn't make sense.
yeah. So this is what I want you to do. Now, mind you, this isn't necessarily somebody that you're trying to pursue. Just
Hmm.
learn to build to have casual conversations with people of the opposite sex. So this is what I want you to do. Somebody hopefully that is in your circle. So let's say you're at church or at work or at the gym, even though the gyms aren't open or some they are open, or so
Yeah.
just out and about. I know we're not very social because we're social distancing, but you get the point. the thing is that try to build within people that you kind of know, and just try to engage in conversation with the opposite sex. Try to build those conversations, because again, if you struggle just to have conversations with somebody of the opposite sex, or just with just people that you don't like, or I don't want to say you don't like them. What's the way we could put it? Because that doesn't sound very good.
I guess people
platonic.
That are...
It's platonic.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. There's no romantic butterflies there, but it's just a platonic friendship. If you struggle to have that kind of conversation, then you're going to struggle later on. So the encouragement is to build that, say hello, then try to work on saying hi to people you don't know. Right? So like I was just at Chick-fil-A. And the person was there. Say hello to the person that gives you Chick-fil-A. Comment, you know what? Observing. I really like, your necklace. That's a really nice necklace. Where'd you get that necklace from? Because you're learning how to have these conversations with strangers.
You're gaining that experience.
You're gaining that experience. And then, now you might, be at a point where you say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say hello to this person that I really haven't talked to, that I really like. So that's how I was going to end.
That's good stuff, man. I think we've covered a lot of points that I hope you guys can use to really build your confidence and really just get over yourself, Stop being a stumbling block for your own self, because you miss out on so many blessings when you do that.
Exactly. Good stuff. All right, you guys, please don't forget to go to the website, Simplify Complexity. You can go to Amazon and purchase my book, Chasing Happily Ever After. You'll love it. Also, you can follow me at Brian E. Wallace.
Oh, they can follow me at Keontae McDonald. So Keonte McDonald, like the restaurant.
There we go.
I should get a shirt made.
You should totally get a shirt made. All right, so God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave those reviews. Oh, and we want to hear from you. What are some tips that you have done? What are some things that you do to try to build those confidence? And if you did apply some of these things and you want to share maybe how that experience went and how this has helped you as far as adding and working on, some of the tips that we shared, we would love to hear from you. So God bless you.
Man.
God keep you. Until next time.